Hello, hello, hello. We are back with another episode of Go FUD Yourself, but this time we are on location at ETH Denver. My good friend Kiara, what's going on?
Hi, it's been a pretty exciting time for the first few days at ETH Denver. There's been a lot going on. Obviously, we went to the trade show. And
Is that what you'd call it, a trade show?
And I don't know, did you go check out the games? The game area?
We checked it out a little bit. There's some really cool, like, octopus-looking things and beanbags, and there's like a DJ. It's all kind of crazy
So I actually
gamer.
took a bunch of video of it and put it on the channel as a short already. But of course, I sent it to our videographer because I don't know how to do anything. And she says, "Is there an under the sea theme? Are you guys at a high school dance?"
There was like octopus and what are those little jellyfish and like a whole bunch of shit. It's like super typical for a crypto conference because
but
it's
the
like
mascot this year is spork whale.
yeah, but last year was the year of the spork. Like they always kind of just evolve on the spork concept at ETH
The
Denver.
whale part, the under the water part.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I get it. Like the fish part.
Did you see the School of Fish parade yesterday?
Absolutely not.
Did you see the spaghetti squid?
Also, absolutely not.
Did you go to the hackathon?
No.
Okay, well I did all that.
So Kiara's the one that's actually doing the like, let's check out ETH Denver. And I'm just happy I got in. Like someone let me in. That was half the battle.
I did through the door.
I made it through security. That was a big deal. Anyway. So, I mean, what is your experience of ETH Denver been? Like, we've seen a lot of stuff. We've seen a lot of people. This is your first one. Like, what are you thinking? What can we say about it for people that aren't here and thinking about coming in the future?
One of the things I didn't expect was how end user focused it was. JD actually warned me about that the side events are a lot more B2B and this event is much more user focused, but it's also really builder focused. And there's a lot more builders here than I had anticipated, which is pretty cool. I actually want to talk about the hackathon area.
Okay.
They have these mentor spots where you can sign up as a mentor, like live. You could sign up in advance or just live. And you can also go sign up, even if you aren't really part of the hackathon, you can go sign up as a dev saying that you need mentorship on something. They've made it super straightforward. There's just tables and tables of devs. And there are Post-it notes that are color-coded for what you need mentorship on. And you put that on your laptop, and then someone will come up and just help you with whatever you're building. I think that's pretty cool.
That's really neat, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so for people that haven't been to ETH Denver or any of the like mainstream ETH conferences, this is probably, I think it has to be close to the largest one of all the ETH conferences. But
I read that there'd be over 25,000 people.
Well, yeah, and you can tell like the airport was a disaster. Like getting hotels is a
always
disaster.
a disaster.
Yeah, the Uber situation in Denver is atrocious at the moment.
Brutal.
But I have to say, this is the first conference I've been to in a couple of years now. We go to a lot of them. That the energy and the vibe is like, it's contagious. It's infectious. You know, that people are excited. It's easy to be excited when Bitcoin's ripping and ETFs and everybody's kind of pumped about all these new narratives. But what's really cool is like the general theme, the general energy of the conference, I think, is so much more positive and forward-looking than I thought before. One important thing to note, though, is when you're walking around like the convention center, I noticed this year more than ever before that it's like almost exclusively infrastructure providers and layer ones and L2s. And it turns out there's a hell of a lot more L1s and 2s than I even thought. And we spend all day looking at this. Like I feel like there's like 100 L1s and L2s that I've never heard of that are all getting a lot of fanfare. So
how many of their t-shirts did you get?
Yeah. So like, okay. so we do the merch on the pod all the time, right? For people that watch the pod on a regular basis, I'm always like trying to show off some sort of merch. And generally where the merch comes from is either people send it to us, size medium, or we walk around conferences and get it. And so like this year, all of the tables it's like they're gating the merch. Like normally you just walk by, like you just bring a bag. It's kind of like trick-or-treating, like Halloween candying, you just walk up, you say trick-or-treat, they throw something in your bag. This year, you had to like give them a DNA sample, pet their dog, hang out for a
Firstborn
while,
child.
babysit their kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you did all that, you could enter a raffle to maybe win a T-shirt. I'm kind of exaggerating, but
Are you?
well, some of them were kind of like that. Chainlink, we found some Chainlink. Was it Chainlink that had the sweatpants?
That's Metis.
Oh, Metis. Okay, so Metis has sweatpants, but you have to win
They're
a raffle
cool.
to get them.
Yeah, well, you have to try to enter a raffle where the Wi-Fi is already overloaded.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many people are going to enter, but I feel like those odds are pretty good if you manage to get in.
So yeah, like another observation I think from these conferences that most people aren't expecting when they show up is there is a very obvious kind of dichotomy. There's like the business side of blockchain, and then there's like the retail kind of crypto curious, artsy, degenerate like crowd, and you really see a solid cross section here. Like there's people. I saw a guy dressed up as a spaceman or like in a space suit today, and like there's some pretty like eccentric outfits and human beings and different things. So, but it's really interesting because it's one of the few times that you see such a cross section of society in one place with one common interest. And so I think it kind of transcends class, like social class. It transcends political kind of leanings, and it's pretty darn awesome. I think like it's just really neat to interface with so many different people, so many different types of people with different backgrounds and interests and so on. But
it's a lot more international than I anticipated as well, because obviously there's crypto conferences everywhere, right? There's ETH Berlin. You would assume that Europeans, people from the UK, are going to go there, but they're here too.
Yeah, I mean, we travel all over. We travel all over for conferences. I think it's kind of funny. I mean, there's so many people that we know in this space over the years that we don't live anywhere close to, but I see them literally more often than I see anybody that lives where I live, really.
Right.
Like, and it's because it's like from the business perspective, builders and protocol managers and whoever, you go around all the conferences representing your brand and taking meetings and doing all this stuff. But it's the same people. Like, so right now we're all in Denver. In a few weeks from now, everybody's going to be probably in Paris.
Right.
You know, like it just kind of never ends. It's the same group of like operators and business people, but then it's a totally new swath of users and, you know, curious people trying to figure out, do they care about the space? How do we learn about it? The one thing that I've noticed the more conferences I go to is the sessions, like the presentations are like really sparsely attended. And like if I was trying to learn about the space, that would be like one of the first things I'd think about is
Absolutely.
like, where can I go to just sit down and learn, like properly learn? And so there's like kind of two ways to do it. You can walk around all the booths and hope to God that you have a minute and they actually pay attention to you. Or you can go listen to these sessions and do all that kind of stuff.
There's some really cool sessions.
There is some really cool topics. It's just unfortunate that they're so under attended.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have you attended any?
Yeah, I went to 5 yesterday.
5?
Yeah.
What the hell was I doing?
You're in the Zen space.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I got. Hey, so another cool thing is they have like the whole upstairs of the building is the Zen. It's like the Zen lounge, I think it's called. And there's
you
like
can buy drugs, pet puppies, plant a plant.
super strange. So apparently psilocybin in certain doses, like mushrooms,
Yeah.
are legal here. And so like a whole bunch of people we know that were at events last night were given psilocybin.
Like as part of the event, instead of a free cocktail,
Yeah,
you got an edible. Yeah.
And I don't know if this is true, so this is anecdotal, don't hold me to
Right.
this, but apparently Base, like Coinbase, is doing a party with psilocybin
way.
today. And I was like, what? So
Talk about
I will-
regulation.
yeah, I will not be participating in the psilocybin because I would probably
I would have to
end up
send
in the
you
hospital
home.
or something. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of like psychedelic colors around here. It's a little bit
Yeah,
like
that's fun.
cypherpunk-ish. Yeah, it's cool.
Okay, so one of the things that you talked about already is that there's way more L2s than you ever knew existed. What are some of the other themes that you're seeing here? I've seen a lot of ZK, obviously.
Yeah, so like, I mean, there's a few prevailing narratives, obviously, that lead into any cycle. A few things that I think I've noticed, and kind of unexpectedly, is there's a lot of excitement for Bitcoin DeFi.
Yeah.
Whether it's Bitcoin L2s or kind of new concepts that are tapping into Bitcoin liquidity. I mean, that's been a surprising narrative. Bitcoin's kind of like, I don't know, in many cycles past. Bitcoin's just kind of been like the grandfather,
Certainly,
OG, like what we don't really talk too much about it. It's not super sexy. It just kind of is.
just exists in minds.
But then with the ETF and like all this hype and
And the
excitement,
halving.
yeah, and the halving coming, and like everybody's kind of getting pumped up about it. So that's one that that's one thing that I think is a prevailing theme that I didn't expect. Obviously, the ZKs and rollups, like that's,
Yeah.
I mean, data availability, all of those types of things, decentralized compute. That's kind of all the rage, especially with all the excitement around L2s and so on. Most of them are based on some version of ZK.
Right.
What's kind of surprising is how many ZK L1s or L2s, pardon me, there are. Like I thought, okay, Polygon, Arbitrum, Optimism, ZK Sync, like whatever. But
Okay,
now,
so we're gonna have to go from bridging and OmniChain to OmniZK.
yeah, OmniZK.
That's the next.
That's actually,
big-
yeah, it's not multi-chain anymore. It's just OmniZK. But there is some really interesting technology and capabilities that are enabled as a consequence of ZKs. So I think it's really interesting. Patrick from Aero Markets, who's on the pod quite a bit, was talking a little bit about like we talk a lot about things that happen off-chain as being, from a crypto perspective, problematic.
Right.
And things being on-chain kind of preserves all of the components of blockchain that we're excited about.
Yeah.
But what Patrick said is the actual sweet spot, and I tend to agree with this, is there's some sort of like contact surface between like of the two where you can actually get a greater efficiency. Like 1 and 1 is 3. So
It's exciting.
an example of that is often there's like one of the limitations of smart contracts is the amount of calculations and compute and stuff that you can do inside of a contract for any like acceptable cost. And so often what developers do is they take a lot of that off chain, a lot of that like intensive computation off chain, which to most people seems problematic because that's a source of centralization. But there's now ways, obviously, using ZKs and other technologies that you can cryptographically secure stuff that happens off chain, and you can verify and validate that it's actually accurate, happened, and is true. And so you can actually get more efficiencies. You can build way more sophisticated products with ZK technology. Not that it's the be-all, end-all, but it's very interesting as kind of a new evolution, I think, of the space. So that's another one. That's a good one, actually, the ZKs. I think the last one that is like, you can't ignore it even if you're trying, is the shared security
Oh yeah.
and the restaking. Like,
Holy.
I mean, I have to admit, a good friend of ours, Lucas, we're going to have him on the pod to talk about restaking. I'm not sure if we're going to do it on site or if we're going to do it in the next couple of weeks, but I think just an education of restaking is pretty important. But I was talking to him before he was building his project, which they've now fundraised for, and it's really exciting. Renzo, it's called, if you want to check it out. But when he was telling me about restaking, originally, I was like, nah, man, like that's never going to work. People aren't going to get on board. And then literally, like a week later, Sriram and Eigenlayer had to prove me wrong by raising a pile of money, getting a whole bunch of fanfare, and then within like the first couple of weeks, having TVL like waiting in line for them. Like, and ever since then, it's been like the Eigenlayer is like the darling of the ball at the moment.
If you can learn anything from Go FUD Yourself, it's to counter trade JD.
Counter trade me. It's funny because I was telling them one of the investments I have. We're not going to talk about it, but one of the investments I have. I had to sell last night, and I didn't have to, but I sold some last night, and never fails. Today it's up 37%. 37%. I sell, it goes up. I buy, it goes down. It's almost invariably like that. So the key is not financial advice, but just dollar cost average. That's my only
I think
strategy.
You say that like 3 times a week.
It's the only strategy that I can do that works, because every time I get emotional and think I have an edge in like my interpretation, I'm wrong.
Wrong.
Yeah, wrong.
You know what else has been a big theme here?
No.
How many politicians I've seen?
How many? One?
Politicians I've seen?
No, I know, but how many? I only saw one.
Oh, I saw 3 yesterday.
Who?
Hester Pierce was here yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, she was on stage. I didn't actually see
She's not
her
officially a
on
politician,
stage.
so
Is she not? She's
No.
in politics.
sort of. She works for the SEC. She's a
Yeah,
commissioner.
that's like nowadays. That's being a politician.
Yeah, it's like it's like a politician without accountability. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a great career.
Sign me up for that shit.
The RFK booth was here
Yeah, I've seen a
yesterday,
lot-
and I
I've seen
did
a-
see an old white dude, so I just assumed it was him.
Yeah, so I'm like I don't usually get very starstruck. Like I don't like, the old adage, don't meet your heroes because you'll be disappointed.
Oh yeah.
I found that to be pretty true most often in my life, that they're just, what it boils down to is most people are just humans like us. Like they're just normal people trying to do something. They happened to do something that puts them in the limelight.
Yep.
They're the same people as everybody else. And
Yeah, they use Google Maps too.
they use Google Maps too. Hopefully not Apple Maps. But anyways, so RFK, obviously, he's one of the few that I would actually kind of like to meet, just because he's just an interesting dude. I think he's kind of wedging himself in a really uncomfortable spot of politics right now, and I think that takes a little bit of courage. I don't know if it's going to matter.
I have good news for you.
Okay.
You can meet him
Yeah.
for the low price of $5,280.
Did it go up? I thought it was 2,600.
No, it's 5,000.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you can meet. There was a dinner that he was going to be at.
Yes,
I
so
think
that's the dinner part.
that was like $500, right?
No. So there's a cocktail hour that's only about $500
Okay.
with hundreds of people. But if you want to have a fairly intimate dinner, which is under 30 people, it's just over $5,000.
Awesome. Okay, so needless to say, Kiara's going. I'm not. The only person that gets paid in this dynamic duo is her. So she's buying her own.
Not for this though.
Yeah, maybe not for this. But yeah, I mean, RFK, that's kind of cool that he's here. I think it's an interesting approach to connecting with a somewhat ignored community by politics at the moment. Like no
Is
one.
it? I feel like it's pretty highlighted now.
It's kind of highlighted, but it's a bit of a hot potato, no? Like I feel like politicians don't want to take a firm stance on it because half the country, well, maybe not half the country, but a lot of people still, are against it for a whole host of reasons. So, anyways,
The Colorado governor also did. Is it Polis? He also did a meet and greet yesterday here.
nice. Okay.
And his booth is still here. And then we also had the U.S. Rep. Brittany Peterson here.
I've never even heard of her. What was she doing here?
I don't know.
Talking or
She
just
was
walking?
just here. She was just chilling.
I just think it's
hanging
cool.
out.
It's cool
Did
to
she
see
join
that.
Sport DAO? Who knows?
Probably. I mean, I don't know why you would not join Sport DAO.
Okay, I do want to talk about Hester Pierce. So
Okay,
she was
let's
on
do it.
stage yesterday
Yep.
saying that the SEC is in enforcement only mode. So they're not going to make any changes and they're not going to put any new regulatory frameworks in as far as they know. Thought you'd love that.
Well, I don't find that super surprising, to be honest, because
Oh.
it's not the SEC that makes new regulations, generally.
Yeah.
It's Congress.
Yeah.
Now, what alarms me a little bit about that is that the SEC is in enforcement mode, but we still don't have consensus on what and how things are going to be enforced and what will be enforced. And so, I tend to agree, though. I don't think we're going to see any movement until after the election because, like I
Absolutely.
said, it's a bit of a hot potato.
And for clarity, Hester Pierce said that she's against that being the case, but also affirmed that that is likely the case.
She is, without question, the biggest crypto supporter and has been for years. Like,
absolutely.
it was almost, I think it was 2 years ago now at DeFiCon in New York.
Yeah.
She was speaking remotely or whatever, and she, already then, like before it was mainstream that we needed to do something, there needs to be regulation. She was already saying like we're missing out on a ton of GDP growth, a ton of innovation in America because we're pushing everybody offshore.
Right.
So, anyways, good to see Hester here. It's awesome that she's still participating in these things.
Yeah, I think those are the main themes. The only other thing that's really been happening here that I think is noteworthy
Yeah.
is that there's been a lot of partnership announcements. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to get into it after?
We can do some of that. We can talk about it. Let's go.
Yeah? Okay, so the first really big one is Starkware, which has Starknet. Debatably a huge L2, although they did have a really big daily user drop to below 100,000. I think it's below 84,000. But anyways, they've announced that they are also going to have an open source ZK prover.
Awesome.
Right.
I think a lot of the a lot of the announcements, like it's kind of interesting. I feel like most projects, ourselves included, kind of stack announcements around a conference, and it's kind of your ticket to get on stage and talk about things and get a bit of an audience. Some of them I feel like are kind of overplayed, though. Like,
Yeah.
Is this a big enough announcement?
I don't know. So I do like what they called it, though. It's S2, but you can pronounce it Stu because then it's DJNE.
All I can think
Stark
about is
too.
Stewie.
Yeah.
From,
Maybe they're going for that for the Family
all
Guy.
I can think about
Yeah.
is Family Guy. Yeah.
Okay, one that is pretty cool, I thought, was actually Robinhood and Arbitrum.
Yeah. Definitely interested in this one. I'm not sure how that's going to work from a regulatory standpoint. I mean, if anything, it's nice to see Robinhood dipping their toe in
Oh, for sure.
in a more meaningful way. I'm just not sure how they're going to facilitate that stuff on chain without some version of permissioning and like all this other stuff. But maybe they will. Maybe they have a way around. I don't know.
Their goal in any case is to reach people who are not currently crypto users, which is kind of an interesting pairing for that explicitly. Like no Web 2 partner with that.
I feel like if you think about like gateway drugs, I think Robinhood is like the gateway drug of like most investments. It's like kind of the place where like retail goes and people that don't really.
So in Colorado, Robinhood is the psilocybin.
Is the what?
Is the mushrooms.
The psilocybin, yeah.
And Arbitrum is the
what?
mountain.
No, I think in that analogy, Robinhood would be the like marijuana, and Arbitrum would be the meth.
Oh wow, you're just real slippery sloping that.
Maybe.
Okay.
But anyways, I don't want to group Arbitrum in as being an illicit drug that messes people up. But
talking about regulation.
But I really like that Robinhood is, because they are the gateway, right? We talk a lot about like on ramps, fiat on ramps. How are we going to attract the next wave of users? And like, is it going to be via MetaMask, Ledger, and on-chain activities? I doubt it. Like,
or is it going to be through GameFi?
Could be through GameFi, which is also another narrative that's kind of really picking up right now. Yeah, actually, that's the one other thing that I think. People again, like we don't talk a lot about it, and I don't pay a ton of attention to it, but gaming is really starting to hit its stride. Like, there's quite a few ecosystems now that the technology has gotten orders of magnitude better, and the games are starting to release that have been developing for the last few years. So
yesterday, DeFi Kingdoms and Metis announced their new partnership.
Whoop, whoop. Yeah, that's exciting. So if you've been following DeFi Kingdoms at all, they've got a whole bunch of different ways that they gamify and turn it into like a role-playing game, but DeFi, which is really cool. It's kind of like pixel arty and really neat. They have a ton of users, but they kind of came up with this concept where you can like build your characters, your heroes a while ago.
And they have legs.
And they have legs. And they did a PvE thing, which was like a huge hit. Everybody was all about it. And then now they just released with Metis the PvP thing. So that's super exciting. The Coliseum is going to be obviously on Metis. If you would have asked me a year ago, I thought Metis would not be around. And,
really?
Yeah. And
I love Metis.
They're hitting their stride a little bit. Seems like so.
Yeah, with those sweatpants and DeFi Kingdoms, what more could you ask for?
That's all I need. Like buy the token, number go up. They have sweatpants. Partner with DFK. It's cool. Right. Yeah, but I think it's gonna be pretty cool.
That's I think that's kind of the news roundup of what's been going on at ETH Denver, at least in the first two main days, so not the big hack days, but the two main days. Yep. Is there anything else that you've seen that needs to be noted for those who aren't here?
I don't know. Join the Spork DAO. Like
tickets.
Tickets are legit free if you're a member of Spork DAO.
It's easy to join.
Which is kind of cool. A lot of other conferences, it's like $1,000 or $1,500 for a ticket, but here it's like all sponsorship driven. You know, to your point, if you're going to attend a conference like this, you know, probably make sure that you get in touch with someone that has event lists and stuff, because the outside events are probably as or more important to many people, in particular builders and building people that are kind of curious about building. That's where you really are going to meet like the founders. What you see on the floor around here in the conference center is like your business development people, your analysts, your marketers.
Actually, there have been a lot of community members working different booths.
Really?
Yeah, I've met quite a few of them. I would say 7 to 10.
That's actually a really smart idea.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
Like, just figure out who of your community members are going to be there and give them a chance to. Yeah, that's a really neat idea.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Well, we're going to have to take a note of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing that I've seen is people walking around wearing T-shirts with a QR code on them saying, I'm just here for a summer internship. And the only reason I want to note this is that I think because the tickets are free and there's so many different projects here and it's so international, that it is a great place for those who are kind of interested or community members seeing the bull run coming and saying, hey, look, maybe this is the moment that I can kind of enter that DeFi.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, people are kind of creative on how they make the most of the events. Yeah. One kind of final thought, I guess, like what everybody has a different strategy or like a way that they approach these events. And I'm not sure any of them are right, but I think, at least from my perspective, once you've been to a few of them, I find people with their first couple of events, they try to talk to everybody, go to every session.
It's exhausting.
And you end up having a whole bunch of meaningless conversations.
Oh, yeah.
And so my goal when I come to a conference is not to attend every event, not to attend every talk, None of that. I don't book a pile of meetings. You know, I just hope to further a couple of relationships that already exist and establish a couple more, and that's it. Like,
Yeah, but there might be people who are coming who don't have those relationships to foster. Right? This is
Absolutely.
their first touch point. So how can they come to a conference like this where there's 25,000 people and meet somebody relevant?
well, just kind of like we said, walk around to the booths and you'll find projects and people that are interesting. I mean, people here are kind of in the space of networking, so to speak. So, like, no matter where you are, people will come up and be like, "Hey, I'm this person. I'm so and so. I do this. What do you do?" And you're like, "Oh my god!" But it is a cool place to meet people.
JD says, "Oh my God." The rest of us say, "Oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you."
It's so awesome to me, and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
So don't approach JD at a
I
conference.
don't
is what you
want
just
to
said.
talk to you. I decided I'm going to get security from now on because the pod, like, we're pretty much international celebrities now. So I think I need bodyguards. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great idea. What if we just get like escorts in bulletproof vests?
Better.
Yeah.
Better than bodyguards.
Done.
It'll keep everybody away from us. It'll just attract them towards them. It'll be perfect.
Perfect.
All right. Well,
Okay.
that is your on-location news roundup from FUD Yourself. We're going to do more of this. I think we're going to do more on-site pods at more conventions and conferences. It'll be a lot of fun.
Be on it.
So if you can't be here, we got you covered.
But
Not
if you
only,
want to be on it, you can let us know.
yeah, if you want to be on the pod,
Yeah.
if you're a builder, community member, anything. If you want to be on the on-location pod at one of the upcoming conferences, send us a note. Happy to have you on. On that note, I say to you, Kiara,
Go FUD yourself.
FUD yourself.